and welcome to the Adapted to Screen podcast. This is a podcast about books and their on-screen adaptations. For example, in a previous episode, we did A Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. We talked about the book and the film, compared the two, decided which is our favourite and why. This week, we are doing Miss Doubtfire. I didn't even know Miss Doubtfire started out as a book, but apparently it did. The book was called Maddam Doubtfire, still is called Maddam Doubtfire. You can find it on Amazon. But yeah, I'm joined by Philip McCulloch and the amazingly talented Scott Cappuro, who also appeared in the film. He'll be telling us about his time on set with Robin Williams and his time off set as well, and some of his comedy career stuff. And yeah, it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to hearing it. So without no further ado, here is our conversation, our chat, and our discussion about Miss Doubtfire.
But we did lock down very early, and that has a lot to do with it. And people here are very serious and have been since day one about mask wearing. If you leave the house or leave your apartment, some guy screamed at me in my building. I went to leave the flat 2 weeks ago, and I forgot my mask, and I turned around like 8 a.m. I'm like, fuck, and I turned around to get it. And this ginger with dreads, fucking hell. As this ginger that fucking bad dreads, white guy, huge guy, big, scary, from the south, staring at me. So, out of the, because it's just for, natural, whatever he said, respect of people. Can you please wear a mask? And I rolled my eyes more at myself than him because I'd forgot it. And he leans into me and says, "Eat a dick and die, you motherfucking asshole."
Wow, that's a bit aggressive.
Very passionate.
Yeah.
Did you just not say, "Do you know who I am"?
Pardon me?
You just say, "Do you know who I am"? Back off.
Well, yeah, hello. But also, you know that there's going to be, I said to him, this is going to be part of my act now. But also, we live 2 doors down from on the same floor in a building with 12 units. We're going to see each other all the so awkward. But, so yeah, if you don't wear a mask, you get a lot of that here. But that's good, I guess, because we've had like around 400 deaths since the beginning of the pandemic in the city.
That's really good. That is good.
I don't like wearing a mask in general because I'm quite phlegmy when I talk. So after a while, it feels like I'm being waterboarded. So if people have a problem, they can go and eat a bag of dicks. I've got
eat some dicks and die. Now, when we're in the flat, my husband, if he's annoyed at me, he says, "Cappuro, eat a dick and die," from across the apartment. So that's become a part of our little colloquialism. But you have to be careful the masks you buy too, because I bought this on a whim. I'll show you the mask I bought on a whim, and I regret it now. Because I didn't try it on first. It's my Barbra Streisand mask.
Ooh.
And I bought it because it looks like, can I do this? Can I flip this around? I had this painting in my house. Can you see that?
Oh,
Nice.
That's marvelous.
wow.
It's a bean and noodle portrait of Barbra Streisand from an album cover. This is the gayest thing I've ever said in my life. And then I saw this and I bought it. But it's a bad fabric, so when I put it on, I suffocate, which is how my husband says he feels when he listens to her music. So, he hates that portrait. He hates Barbra Streisand. There's little beans, there's little noodles of the Jewish star on the corners of the frame.
That's cool. That's really good.
It's really
Nice
gay.
piece of art.
It'll give you AIDS if you're not careful. But this. You have to be careful when you buy.
So, Scott, what we're going to do is...
I think we should carry on doing this. Fuck
yeah.
this.
Forget the podcast. Forget it. So what me and Richard do, we read a book, we watch a film, we just have a little chat about the differences. Have you read Maddam Doubtfire before?
I haven't read it, no.
Okay,
No, cool. It's okay. It was boring.
Scott got halfway through and his Kindle broke. But all we do really is just... do a little bit about the author, do a little bit a little bit about the people who are in the film, and then just discuss the differences, really. Obviously, we can't discuss the differences with you if you haven't read the book. However, what I will say is the book is exactly the same, more or less, with a few little differences. And what we'll do, we'll bring you into the conversation.
You can tell us about all the funny shit that happened on set.
Okay.
One of the differences being you're not in the book.
Oh.
Yeah. So
the couple isn't, or my character isn't.
No, Jack. There's no Jack. There's no Frank, and there's no Stu.
Who does the makeup? Well, we can talk about that when you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what we can do is bring you into the conversation when we're talking about that, really,
Okay.
rather than you talking about the differences. We're looking at the book Maddam Doubtfire by Anne Fine, a Leicestershire-born writer. So it's another Midland who we're looking at. We looked at Alan Moore last podcast, and Anne Fine there. She moved over to Edinburgh in the early 80s and actually got the name Maddam Doubtfire from a charity shop around the corner from her house. So that's where the name of the book come from. She's written many other books before, but this is the only one that's been adapted to screen.
And I'm surprised that, Scott, you didn't know about this. I thought you'd have been well on top of this.
You mean having read that I should have read the book?
Oh, no, known about the book. Did you know about the book?
I knew that a book had been written, and I knew that I think I'd heard that story about the charity shop.
That's good.
Being, the name of the character. I think I'd heard that before. But having grown up Catholic, I don't really read the book. I just pretend I know it all. So
I'm not Catholic, and I still do that.
Yeah. I read book reviews. But
that's
who has time for books? I'm busy shopping online, buying stuff. No time.
The film was directed by Chris Columbus of Home Alone fame, starring Robin Williams as Daniel Hillard, Sally Field as Miranda, Pierce Brosnan as Stu, Harvey Feinstein as Frank, Scott Cappuro as Jack, Lisa Jacob as Lydia, Matthew Lawrence as Christopher, and Marriott Wilson as Natalie. And as I said, we have a discussion on the differences. But before we do, Scott, could you just talk us through, because I've watched a couple of interviews with Matthew Lawrence and Harvey Feinstein and heard their versions of how they heard about the part and how they got the part. Could you tell us how you first heard about the part of Jack and how you got the role?
Yeah, I was an actor living in San Francisco. I had tried a bit of stand-up comedy and enjoyed it, but I was mostly in plays and auditioning for TV and film. And they used to do a lot of TV and film out of San Francisco. That was the next stop after LA got too expensive. And then they've since moved on. But for a period of time, they were doing a lot of film and TV here. And I'd heard about the part through a casting director, and they were looking for, I see my husband on the street, sorry. They're looking for, he's got the dog. Oh God, this is gonna be a mess. They were looking for a gay, I think they'd said in the character description, a camp designer, or maybe a gay one. And I showed up at the audition, and I hadn't auditioned for very many feature films yet, and I didn't really have expectations about how to behave. But in those days, in 1993 or so, actors used to show up at auditions in three-piece suits. That was just how they were done, how they behaved, with a briefcase, because they're actors. That was their uniform. And I showed up in sort of probably something similar to what I'm wearing now, something a bit more camp. And they also didn't have a script for my character. They had a description and an improv. And I think some actors are uncomfortable without a script in their hand, but because I've done a bit of stand-up, I was okay with that. And when I went in, the casting director said, "We have Robin Williams is leading this film, and you have to turn him into a woman. Go." And I'd read in a description of Robin that he'd had his hands shaved for films because he was so hairy that it was distracting on camera. I read that somewhere. So my response was, "Okay, you look like an ape. We've got to shave your hands if you're going to be a lady. Bring me a razor." And that got a big laugh from the casting director, and so they liked that. And that got me a callback. And then at the callback, there's only one other actor. So the competition wasn't stiff. And then I ran into Robin in a comedy club. And we were kind of chatting. And so brazenly, I said I'd audition for his film. And he's like, oh, that shouldn't be a problem. So I was lucky.
Well, Robin Williams was a producer also, wasn't he, on the
with his wife
film? So,
yeah.
So I don't know whether he had an extra bit of stroke on maybe saying, I want him to be I want that.
No idea, but he did say, I think later, that he was eager to hire local comedians to play some of the smaller, the feature
That's good.
parts.
Yeah.
It was great.
That's good.
It was great. So a lot of people, like the guy who plays the waiter and the maitre d', are all comic performers, if not stand-up comedians from the Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's really good.
And so you mentioned then about the script. You said either camp or gay designer. And I was having this conversation with Richie the other day. We watched the film. Well, I watched the film maybe once a year or so with the kids and whatever else. But there was lots of that film. For instance, there was the Jack and the Frank character who were.
Sorry, the dog.
No. It's quite all right. Just take your time.
My dog just arrived. Sorry. Come on. Okay, go on. I'm listening.
Yeah, no. Obviously, there was the Jack and the Frank character. I think they were referred to as Uncle Frank and Auntie Jack at one point.
Yes, they were.
There was some deleted scenes as well with yourself with Robin and Harvey, where you were looking for clothes for Mrs Doubtfire.
There were. We spent an entire day outdoors in North Beach. In thrift shops looking for clothing.
Yeah, and then you mentioned about there was someone you were talking about who'd had a sex change, and then I think there was a woman or a man dressed as a woman stood next to Robin while you were talking about it. So there was lots of progressive things in this film that kind of that you don't really notice, but obviously nowadays it's like a focal point kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. For some people viewing that film, or at least people have told me this who've seen it, that it was the first time in their life at that time that they'd seen a gay couple positively portrayed on a cinema screen, and also a gay couple that was not the focal point of some sort of gag, or you know what I mean, that wasn't used in any sort of vulgar way, that was just there. They were just part of the family. And I think that's what makes, for some people who view the film, I think that's what makes it so special. That's what makes that moment of the film so special. I mean, that's why they remember my character. Of course, Robin's brilliant performance is what makes the film spectacular. But I think that the reason they might remember Harvey and I, even though we're not in the film for that long, is because of that. Because we're just two characters in the film. I think the fact that Harvey and I were out as performers and out in the film, you know, there's a lightness about the scenes. You know, we're obviously really comfortable around each other, and you know, I think part of that was also because of Robin. You know, I was suddenly on a feature film set with two other comic performers. We were the only actors on the set. You know, I was so nervous. Obviously, it was my first time on a feature film set, and of course, around two icons and Chris. You know, Columbus. It was. They weren't laying the pressure on, but of course I felt like I wanted to do my best at all times. And I was so anxious, obviously, to impress someone like Robin, if I even could for 1 second, that I kept blowing my first line. I blew it so many times. And finally, Chris pulled me aside and said, just relax, you just relax. And so that set that week in that apartment, also because of my hometown right around the corner from my house, I really felt comfortable around them. And it's been said many times, I just read this in something, I can't remember where, that there was so much improvisation on this. I mean, Robin wanted to improvise a lot. That was his way, you know, I guess. And so you weren't sure when the cameras were rolling. And there was no point being nervous because it was just happening all the time. And it just became a part of that day. And also, I think people feel comfortable watching Harvey and I because we're not really putting anything on. We're just being ourselves. It was great fun. I was lucky.
That was the one thing about, I mean, yeah, you didn't spend much time on the screen, but the one thing that does come over from the scenes that you were on was how natural it came across. You know, it doesn't seem like, it doesn't feel like you were acting. And
well, I think because for me, by the time I got the part, they wrote the script having seen me on camera. So the lines suited me, it felt. And it didn't feel like I, again, had to put anything on. And they also asked us to be playful, Harvey and I. So we were playful. Some of those lines came out of our playfulness. It was really, I mean, you couldn't, as a comic, I couldn't think of a more ideal experience to have. And I thought, oh, this is how all films are made. And then the next time I was on a film set was very different. And yeah, it was very different. And yeah.
It's a very funny you say that. I was watching an interview with Mara Wilson, who played Natalie, and she said exactly the same thing. She said it was so much fun that even though she was obviously 5 years old, she'd never done a film before. This was her first. She went, well, this is how it is all the time. Isn't this great?
Yeah, I mean, I remember being one morning getting in a car and sitting in front of me with Sally Field, who, of course, like anyone else, I'm a huge fan of. She's won 2 Academy Awards, and I grew up watching her. I just staring at the back of her head. I said, "How you doing?" She said, "I'm fine." This is so surreal. And I said, "This is wild, right?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm just a mom who wants to work, though." But that was so sweet. Had no airs. There was no point anyway, because the mood of this set was so friendly that no one was putting it on. It was great. It was great. And he was such a lovely man to work with on that, but also to share a comedy stage with. I mean, I was able to do comedy on the same stage he did that night a few times. And then he did improv at a club called Cobb's Comedy Club in the city. And I was hosting the show that night. So he dragged us all up on stage, the comedians in the house that night. And anyway, he was just such a generous and the last time I saw him do comedy, the year before he passed away, he looked so happy on stage,
We touched on it briefly, the deleted scenes that you're doing. You said you spent the whole day on the in the thrift stores looking for Madame or Mrs Doubtfire's clothes. How many days were you actually? How many days were you booked for, and how many days did you actually do on set in total?
That's a thing, right? Because in those days you got residuals. So the more days you spent on set, the more your residual percentage was. So my agent would call me every day and say, "Did they invite you back?" And I say, "Yeah." Oh, thank God. So I was brought in on the first day, not knowing how long I'd be on the set. So in the end, I was there for 5 days, which is great, a full week. I think we were 4 days, if I'm getting, it's so long ago, but 4 days in the apartment, and then a day outdoors near the shops. It might have been 3 too, but I think it was 4-1.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So did you get to see any of the bits of filming, or was like the scenes that you were filming? Because I would imagine the scenes that you were filming, it would have took a long time, obviously, to have all the makeup applied onto Robin, then to do your bits. So like, was that kind of like, say, as an example, like 3 days straight of doing a makeup, cut, wash that off, put different makeup on, do your lines, cut, wash all that makeup off?
There was a lot of that, yeah. And then Robin had to learn some of the songs for the parodies because he didn't know. He's a heterosexual guy. He doesn't know the lyrics to the parade, believe it or not. So thank God there were 2 queers on the set. But then also we did a couple of parodies they ended up not using for the film that were suggested. And that was those, we did an Ivanka Trump thing with huge high wigs, a leader of the pack spoof.
Oh.
I don't think they used, and that took some time. But I think also, cool. There was a lot of that. There was a lot. And I think they wanted to, Chris and Robin had a very, very intimate relationship, it seemed, on the set. And they wanted to do a lot. They wanted to get a lot of footage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they could pick and choose between what they were using. So, because obviously, I think we either mentioned before we started recording, but your character Jack and Frank were not actually in the book. Oh. The way the book runs is it picks up, if you remember in the film when Daniel's having dinner with his children for the first time when he's in his apartment by himself. Uh-huh. That's where the book begins. Oh. But in the book, he's already divorced. There's the custody battle's already been done. There's no talk of that. And then, so it really is that scene where where Sally Field comes round, she says she's going to get a maid, and he changes the number, and then he does all the silly phone calls just like Robin does in the film. But all in the book, what Daniel does is just put a turban on, put some apricot foundation on, a big dress, and turns up, and the children actually know straight away. So he goes. Natalie, the youngest, is there. So Mrs Doubtfire puts her to bed, reads her a story, and she goes, "Night, Daddy."
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, I haven't fooled you." And then he goes down. He goes downstairs. The Lydia and Christopher come home from swimming. Christopher sees the housekeeper. He's not happy because obviously he wants his dad to look after them. But Lydia notices straight away and pulls him away and goes, "It's Dad." And they get away with that throughout the book.
But his ex-wife doesn't get it.
No, she doesn't get it. No, she has. Richie, what did you say about Miranda in the book?
In the film, I didn't like Miranda. In the book, I hated Miranda. She was horrible. She had definite issues.
Yeah, I'd say in the book she was like, I mean, I can understand that, you know, you're a single mother with in the book she owned a lighting emporium, and I can imagine you're a single mom. It's the mid-80s. You've got 3 children. You've got a business to run. You're probably just thinking about working, getting home, working, getting home. That's why you can't tell that your ex-husband, who you hate, is dressed as a woman in your house.
Stinking attitude as well. Stinking attitude.
Yeah.
And it's like you're listening to it and you're thinking, why did you get with her in the first place? She's horrible.
But I say in the film, she was, you know, I know that Richard said that he didn't like her, but I thought she was complete opposite. I thought she was, you know, she was caring. She wasn't anywhere near the book. In
the film, she had all those, the weight of the world on the shoulder with the 3 kids, and she was a single parent because, you know, and you knew, and you could tell that underneath it all, there was something endearing and something better that could that needed to come out. In the book, no, she was just an evil bitch
all the way through. The other character in the film, and obviously I think in the film as well. I mean, and I don't know if you were privy to these discussions, Scott, but obviously you can't have Robin Williams just put some makeup on and a turban and turn up at the door because he's too recognisable. It's Robin Williams, so you would need someone to put the makeup on. You would need that makeup effects person, you know, your character and Harvey's character. So I mean, was that ever kind of like put to you, like that's what your character, you know, why your characters were there, or was it just this is the role and this is what's happening? I
think it was self-explanatory.
No, we just listen. My feeling on a film set, maybe not that one in particular, or that one a little bit too. You show up and they're just concerned that you fit the costume. They want you in the costume on the set. Here's your lines, do them, get out. I mean, you know, the artistry of filmmaking from an actor's perspective, I think, is just knowing what you're doing in those scenes. Oftentimes when you're in film or even a TV show, they only send you the scenes you're in. Okay. You don't even know what else is going on in the film. I don't know why this is. It might be a copyright infringement, or it might be because they don't want you thinking about other stuff, or they don't want you diluting your making it too complex. But that's always been my experience. I've been only in a few films and a bunch of TV shows, but that's always, you only get the scenes. And sometimes you're in your hotel room and they shove a script under your door at midnight before the next shoot day, and all they do is shove 3 pages in with you in. That's all you get. So there's a compartmentalization about actors on film sets that you're kind of aware of when you're there. And I think it might also be because that's all they're dealing with that day. That's all they have time for. Okay. But I never worried about why we were there or what the purpose was. You know, I don't know if you've watched The Kominsky Method, but it's brilliant on Netflix with Michael Douglas.
No, not yet.
It's fucking great. If you're a comedian, you have to watch it. But anyway, it's great. And he's an acting teacher in LA, but he brings in Allison Janney to speak to his class one day. And she's a really good actress. She's won a bunch of awards. And she says, you know, when I'm thinking about my character, I I think around the part, and I look at how other actors respond to me in the film. I read their parts to know who I am, to know if I scare people, if they like me, if I'm nice to some people. And I'm thinking when I'm watching the scene, I'm like, they send you the whole script, and they do it because she's the lead. But I mean, if you're somebody like me, all you're getting is like your own little
just
bit.
getting the bit. Yeah, just getting the bit.
And then they want you to be, I guess they want you to be effective in that bit, but not to worry too much. You know? So I was always just concerned about hitting the spot and pulling the things on the side of his face and getting the line in time. I'm not even trying to think of timing or anything. I'm trying also to keep eye contact with the actors I'm working with, because I don't want to space out or I've already got one lazy cornea. I don't want to look like I'm looking elsewhere, or, you know, I just want to hit the light, you know, because there's so much to worry about when you're there. There's so many people on a set. Jesus Christ. There's like 30 people standing behind you, and you just don't want to slow anything down. You want to get on with it, you know. So.
One of the other characters in the film who wasn't in the book was Stu. That's Pierce Brosnan's character. There was a mention that she had been on a couple of dates in the book, but no other male part. Did you meet Pierce at all when you was on set?
Only for like a minute. I met the other actors, and I always thought it would have been great if they had brought Harvey's and my character back on the night they were out to dinner at that restaurant, and had us in the toilet, like, because she was nervous, and we showed up, and she's like, what are you doing here, Mrs. Doubtfire? We said, well, we just came here to support you. No, you can't be here. So we went to the restroom and then heard all this chatter in the ladies' room. Thought that sounds fun, and we went in there and hung out with the women and helped them with their hair and makeup and stuff.
That would have been pretty cool, actually.
Then, you know what I mean? That would be great. So
is that what gay people do?
Yeah, well, it would be great. Mrs. Doubtfire ran in there. We did her makeup every 2 minutes to turn it back into Daniel. And then the ladies saw that. So we're in there the whole night, right? Fluffing hair. And I just thought it'd be great. I thought it would have been a great way to bring us back. But
yeah, no. So because I mean, the film's runtime is 2 hours and 5 minutes, and there's 32 minutes of deleted footage.
Oh,
and
right.
You'd think there was a lot with the neighbour in the book.
Polly Holiday, they didn't use her at all.
No, which is a shame, really.
Her I spent a day with, because she was outside the house when they drove up, and she was huge on TV here when I was younger. Really excited to meet her, and then I was really excited to see her part because she's very funny. And then they didn't use any of it. So
no, which is a shame, really, because a lot of the parts. A lot of the deleted scenes were all relevant in the book, actually, because Daniel was in the book, especially. It was very very prominent that he was a green-fingered person, and because the neighbour in the book was such a cow, he delighted in the fact that her plants were rubbish, and as Mrs. Doubtfire would drop smarmy comments, she'd go, "Oh, Mrs. Doubtfire, can you check out my flowers?" And Mrs. Doubtfire would be like, "Got cankles." She'd be like, "What?"
Funny you say that, because when we pulled up in the car, I remember she was standing out front of the neighbor's house in gardening gear. So now that makes sense.
Oh well, there we go. Yeah. So because one of the deleted scenes is she's asking Mrs. Doubtfire for advice, and he tells her the best way to get plumage on a flowers is to have like 2 spoons of coffee to 3 liters of tea and a dash of dog piss.
How did someone look at that book? How did someone look at that book and think we can make a masterpiece out of this?
It's brilliant too, because he is so spry, and he doesn't comment. You know, oftentimes you see someone gender changing in a role, and it's a difficult thing to do effectively, I think, because sometimes people, even experienced performers in live performance, you can see them commenting on the part as if they're standing outside it and saying, "This isn't really me." And I've seen comedians do that. When I can almost always tell when a comedian is stealing a joke, because they comment on it when they're telling it. It's a funny feeling I have, and yeah. So
that's interesting.
But he doesn't do that at all, Robin. He's in it. He's in the part. You forget it's him many times when you're watching that film. That's good. You know,
that's the thing about the part that he played as well. I mean, in a lot of films, when you dress a man up as a woman, you're basically dressing them up in drag. You know that it's a man dressed up as a woman, like was it Priscilla, Queen of the Desert? Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and things like that. Whereas Robin wasn't. He wasn't with a drag queen. You're trying to draw attention to yourself. You've got big hair. You've got
he was transformed
bold
into
clothes.
a woman.
This person that Robin would walk down the street and you wouldn't turn your head and you wouldn't think twice.
Well, sometimes I think men are a bit anxious playing women, and they need to stand outside of it to protect their own masculinity. I think that's what it is. But also, from what you said too, when we were with Robin, he wanted to get an ice cream. Remember, we were in North Beach in those outdoors scenes at the thrift shops, and we walked down the road off the set for a minute because they were changing cameras and stuff, and we were just chatting. And Aladdin had come out recently and was a huge hit internationally.
The year before, I think that wasn't it?
Yeah, and there were parents with their kids, foreign families as tourists, and these kids who didn't speak any English heard his voice chatting casually, and ran at him and leapt up into his arms because they were so, they found him so engaging. There's just the voice from that film, and so he was able even to mask in a way that it wasn't just his appearance, but his voice is so recognizable internationally. And he was not mask it, but just give it away and put something else there. And maybe it was because of his theater background or the way he'd been raised in a very liberal area here, or just who he was. He didn't feel like he had to hide away from himself or comment on his show. No, but I'm still a man. I'm still a guy. I'm still hetero. He didn't have to do any of that. He wasn't afraid of the part, which was great. I think that's one of the reasons why, again, people find the film so engrossing. They fall into it because he's so into it.
Would you say the film was ahead of its time in the way that it approached the characters? Because there aren't many films around that time, if any at all, that would have, like your character, for example, and dressing the man up as a woman. It was only in the early 90s, but it was still something that wasn't. It was territory that people usually stayed away from. Would you say that it was kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, you said progressive earlier. I mean, it might have been. I mean, unintentionally, though. I think what it is a really good comedy, and I think with comedy you can push people's comfort zones a little bit. So because of that, it does. And
I think what's good about that was it was a comedy with an unhappy ending because the parents don't get back together. Yeah. You get what they wanted all along for the dad to look after them after school. Well, but other than that, there's it's not a happy ending film, which is it's strangely satisfying because that's what, as a viewer, that's what you want. You want them to be with the dad. It doesn't matter if they're married or not. So you don't get like the kind of Hollywood ending. You just get what you get.
Although it sounds like Richie's happy with that because he thinks she was such a bitch. It's probably they're not.
In the book. In the book.
That's very true.
I thought she could have been redeemed in the film.
Something you might find interesting, Scott, is in the book there is no restaurant scene. In the book, Daniel is an actor, or he's a stage actor. But he lives in Leicester to be closer to his children rather than London. So he takes up a job as a nude model or a life model, should I say. Is it a life model? Live model? Yeah. Artistry, nude model, which he didn't realise that his next door neighbour goes to the art class and she's horrified to see that Daniel is the live model. It transpires that the studio is being renovated and Miranda had agreed for Mrs. Hooper to have her class at her house before she realised it was Daniel. And then before we know it, the art class is being held at Miranda's house with Daniel as the nude model. And then she says to Mrs. Doubtfire, "Can you come and look after the children because the school's on strike?" So he's like,
so he's running in and out getting dressed. And
he's not. No. It's very, very. It's very. I thought this is going to be like total chaos, but he's modelling nude in the living room. And about an hour later, Miranda comes home. She goes upstairs because she can't go in the living room, and she sees all of Mrs. Doubtfire's clothes on the floor. And that's it. And the deleted scene with Daniel and Miranda in the film, when after he's found out to be Daniel, he goes back to the house and has the conversation. That's all in the book. They're having a big argument, and it's more or less settled exactly the same in the end of the book and the end of the film, other with the bus driver as well. The bus driver in the film, if you notice, who took a shine to Mrs. Doubtfire, also takes a shine to Mrs. Doubtfire in the book. But in the deleted scenes, the bus driver, I think this is like the third or the fourth time he's picked up Mrs. Doubtfire, and he's like, I'm going to the bingo on Thursday if you want to come with me. And he's like, look, I'm a bloke. And he's like, you still look really nice.
That's like the final scene from Some Like It Hot, right?
I've never seen that. Never seen it.
The dragon, the guy who's been trying to get him throughout the film, gets him on a boat, and Lemon finally says, pulls off his wig. I'm a guy, and this rich old guy says, well, not everybody's perfect, and that's the last one. Hilarious.
Spoiler alert for everyone.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of glad that the film's different, because so often, why not use it as a jumping point, right? There's no point in trying to reproduce something that's already been written. Might as well do something different with it. It's great.
Absolutely. I found with the book, it was just a story, and the story was the way she wrote was very formulaic. It didn't really grab your attention. It was kind of like if you've got a colouring book and you've got a picture, you know what the picture is, but it needs colouring in. And what you did with the film and what Robin did with the film and all the other characters is you coloured that picture in and you made it a beautiful story.
Oh, that's sweet.
I think it was near perfect.
That's the way I look at it.
As a film, I think it was near perfect. I think first of all, for 2 hours and 5 minutes long, it doesn't feel like that at all. And even when we was watching it back for this podcast, when they're in the restaurant, I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, no, come on, get to the bloke, do your meeting.
You know how it's going to turn out because you've watched it 1,000 times, but you're still on the edge of your seat.
And you still laugh and you still cry. Now, Scott, Richie asked me a very interesting question. He asked me if you could choose one group, one band to have done the soundtrack for this film, which group? So you could take out the music. You take out the music that's currently in there and replace it with the music from one band or artist. Or solo artist.
Casey and the Sunshine Band, I think.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good shout.
I went with Run DMC.
Oh, sure.
I was going to go with Queen, but then I thought that a lot of their stuff was a bit maybe too dramatic.
Yeah. Ethereal. Yeah.
But Casey and the Sunshine Band's a pretty good call.
Yeah, I think so.
They're bouncy. Yeah. A little, it's good. It'll be good. And they're youthful oriented, because the kids are featured. And it's real. The whole film's really about his relationship with his children. So
yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, and in the book as well, it's it's all about the children, and that's obviously why he's doing it. That's why he's going through the odds. I could ask Richie rather than ask you. What normally what we say is, what would you add and what would you take out? Is there anything particularly, Scott, that you would either add? Well, we know what you would have added. You would have added that scene in the toilets. That and to me that's fantastic. Is there anything that you would have taken out of the film that maybe you thought was unnecessary?
I really can't. I liked all the close-ups of the kids. They were really good little actors, I thought. And one other thing I would have added, though, is when he talks at the end about different sorts of families, I would have added LGBT families. But people weren't doing that then. But it would have been nice.
No, of course not. Yeah, no. Well, I think he did say some families have two mummies and two daddies.
That would have been good.
Yeah, no, he did. Yeah, he did. He did say that.
Does he say that?
Yeah.
I should look
Oh,
again. I don't remember that. Okay, I'll look. Well, I'll look.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure, unless I was waiting for it and it didn't come, but it's still stuck there.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't say that, but I'm happy to take a look.
No, but you're right. Maybe it's just stuck in my head. Richie, what would you have taken out or added?
I wouldn't have added anything until he mentioned that bathroom scene. I think that
Yeah,
would have worked really well.
That. Yeah. That would have been bizarre. And then if, because I know, and then like if Sally Field had come in, maybe what you would have done.
As for taking things out, I don't think there's anything on it I'd want to take out.
And it's really strange for a 2-hour plus film to go nothing. You can't take anything out because it all works.
Yeah,
which is,
yeah.
I mean, maybe the scene at the Lido with Pierce at the swimming pool. Maybe that was not exactly necessary.
He's funny though, Pierce. I think he's funny in the film.
Is that the scene where he throws the orange off his head?
Yeah, it's so
run by fruiting. The run
that was
by
definitely
fruiting.
needed. That was brilliant.
Well, you see, because at that point in the film, when they all come in, it's the first time we see Pierce, and well, not the first time we see Pierce, but the first time we see him kiss Sally Field or Miranda on the lips, like in front of the kids, as if it was nothing. Because before, all you saw was him being introduced to the children. I think they may have gone on one date, and it was showing how a lot of time had passed. Because he just walked over, kissed her on the lips, and everything was fine.
Yeah,
you know, the kids weren't like, "Oh, he's kissed mummy." It's something they'd seen before, and it was quite. And I think I'd read a comment somewhere where you've got Robin Williams dressed as a woman watching James Bond move in on your wife.
Yeah.
I got a question. I got a question for you, Scott.
Yeah,
What would you say is your fondest memory from that film? Doing that film?
It was really fun to be in the trailer with Harvey because there were some moments when we were offset and hanging out and just chatting.
They made you share a trailer. Outrageous.
But I went to his trailer because he was he was just so funny. And I mean, at that point, I was a huge fan of his. I just wanted to chat with him about Hollywood and Broadway and all that stuff. And he'd appeared on Broadway with Matthew Broderick, who I thought was brilliant. I want to know what that was like. And he also probably outed a bunch of actors to me, which was hilarious. Would have been hilarious. And we were allowed to go watch the dailies one day, and they were aired not far from the set. And Harvey said, "You don't want to watch them." In his voice, of course, which I can't do, but you don't want to watch the dailies. You do not want to watch yourself. I said, "Why?" He said, "Believe me, you don't want to see the way you look. You just don't want it." And I said, "I really want to go to the dailies. We don't want to see the daily." You know, it's well, that's when you're an actor. The daily. So we went to this small dark theater, and my head popped up on screen. I just thought, what the fuck? That's my face, and that's the sound of my voice. For fuck's sake! And so, because you never hear yourself, do you?
No, of course.
And so, we left the dailies, and he said, "I told you so. I told you. I told you didn't want to see that shit." I'm like, Jesus Christ. And then another time we were on the set, and I didn't know who Chris Columbus was. I'm an idiot. I'm a comic from San Francisco. I don't know anything. And I'm trying to be nice and funny, but I have no social skills because I'm a comedian. And we're sitting down out on the patio outside of the apartment, out on the deck, the terrace. And I said, I'm trying to be chatty, hang out with the guys. I say, "Hey, Chris, so what other stuff have you done? How'd you get this gig?" And then he started to list the films he directed. I'm like, "Oh yeah, those are all good ones." And then he walked away, and Harvey said, "You're either really good at this or you're a fucking idiot. How do you not know who Chris Columbus is?" I don't know. So those two moments were fun. It was just, again, there were no negative. Seriously, I can't think of anything. The closing night, they did a rap party, which was fun because I went to the rap party, of course, because I live here. And I met all the tech guys, and they were really funny. And I wished that I'd gotten to know them more on the set. And, there's nothing about it that wasn't great. So.
That's good. Well, I think that really brings us to the end, Richie. That brings us to the end of the episode. Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Really nice to meet you guys. Thanks for calling.
No. Thank you for coming on and sharing some stories. And obviously, when you're over in the UK next, let us know where you're performing, and we'll come down and see you.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Well, okay, cool. So we haven't got anything for the next episode, have we yet, Richie? Normally we have something in line.
We'll do the Jack Black film that we mentioned, High Fidelity.
Oh yes, okay, we'll do that. Yeah, okay, cool.
They turned that into a TV series too, haven't they?
I
think they have.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll have to check that out.
I'll have to have a look for that.
Yeah. And they put a woman, I think, in the lead of. Yeah, I think they have.
How about that?
Yeah,
I'll have a look for that.
We'll check that out. Well, from me, Philip.
And me, Richie.
And me, Scott Cappuro.
We've been adapted to screen, and we'll speak to you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Ms. Robeson, do you have any closing remarks?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Well, Mr. Hillard, since you've determined to act as your own attorney, you are entitled to make a closing statement at this time.
Your Honor, in the past 2 months, I've secured a residence. I've refurbished that residence and made it an environment fit for children. Those are your words. I'm also holding down a job as a shipping clerk. So I believe I met your requirements. Ahead of schedule. In regards to my behavior, I can only plead insanity. Because ever since my children were born, the moment I looked at them, I was crazy about them. Once I held them, I was hooked. I'm addicted to my children, sir. I love them with all my heart. And the idea of someone telling me I can't be with them, I can't see them every day, well, it's like someone saying I can't have air. I can't live without air, and I can't live without them. Listen, I would do anything. I just want to be with them. You know, I need that, sir. We have a history. And they mean everything to me, and they need me as much as I need them. So please, don't take my kids away from me. Thank you.
Should we do a quick intro, Rich, for the audio?
Okay. Do you want to do that, or shall I?
Yeah, no, go on, you do, because you've got a better voice than I have.
I really don't. I'm squeaky.
Okay, then. I'll do it very quickly. Welcome to the Adapted to Sound podcast with me, Philip.
No, that's not the podcast, Philip. Let me do it.
I've gone the Adapted to Sound.
Yeah, Adapted to Sound. Hello and welcome to the Adapted Screen podcast. This is a podcast about books and their on-screen adaptation. Did I say books? Who knows what I said? Hello and welcome to the Adapted to Screen podcast. This is a podcast about books and their on-screen adaptations. For example, in the past episode... Hello and welcome to the Adapted to Screen podcast. This is a podcast about books and their on-screen adaptations. For example, in a past episode we did The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which is a fantastic book and a fantastic film. We compared the two, and who knows what we did. For example, in the past episode we did The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. We covered the book and the film. We talked about the differences and which one we preferred and why, type thing, in a kind of entertaining manner, as it were. Fuck off. In this week's episode, we are joined by the amazingly talented Scott Cappuro, who appeared on the film of the book that we're covering, which is Mrs Doubtfire. I'm going to do that again. be telling us all about his times with Robin Williams on set and off set. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, you messing this all up and having to start again. Can't wait. Hello and welcome to the Adapted Screen Podcast, a podcast about books and their on-screen adaptations. For example, in a previous episode, we did A Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. We compared the book with the film and decided which was our favourite and such. This week, we have been joined by the amazing Scott Cappuro to talk about the book and the film Mrs Doubtfire. I didn't know, and I've done it wrong. So,